Hi everybody. I hope you had a fantastic spring break. So I'm actually going to be filming our video notes and examples from my house now. So I have a nifty little phone holder that I'm using to make these videos. So I'm sorry if it's a little shaky. Before I get going, I do want to tell you guys, if you haven't read that announcement on Canvas yet, that for fourth quarter, assignments will only be available a week after their due date, okay? So for example, this assignment that we're talking about today is due on April 13th, okay? So it will only be available to do on Canvas for a week after that date, okay? So this assignment will only be available until April 20th, okay? A week after this, or 7 days, okay? This way, you guys aren't getting far behind. It's easier for me to grade things. It's just kind of easier for everybody, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about your guys' assignment for today. We're talking about Pythagorean Theorem some more, and I know this isn't a new concept, but this is a concept that you guys will use in all of your math classes to come. So we're going to talk about it a little more before we get going on a new concept, okay? So we are talking about real world story problems. So let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So these are real story problems that we are going to use Pythagorean theorems to solve. So I'm going to do number 1 as an example, and then I will start number 2. You are going to be required to finish it, and then number 3, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, but number 1, so I'm going to go ahead and read this. You guys can read it along with me. And as I am reading, I am going to underline information that I feel is going to be useful. Okay, so number 1. Oh, and it got blurry as soon as I put my pen in there. Okay, number 1. Ooh, maybe I should keep my pen out. Okay, how far from the base of the house do you need to place a 15-foot ladder? Okay, I'm going to underline 15 foot. Or 15 feet, so that it exactly reaches the top of a 12-foot wall. Okay? If you can hear my dog walking around, that's him. I'll show him to you at the end of this video. Okay, so I have 15 feet and 12 feet underlined because I know that I'm going to have to use that information. Okay, so now that I have that, now I'm going to actually read it again and see what I'm actually drawing a picture of. So how far from the base of a house? Okay, so it tells me I have a house right here. So I'll use a different color. So it tells me I have that house right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little house. Okay, there's my little house. How far from the base of the house? Okay, so this is my base, right? The bottom. How far from the base of the house do you need to place? Okay, so this is what we're looking for. How far from this base of the house do I need to place a 15-foot ladder? Okay, so here's my ladder that I'm placing right here. Boom, I can draw my ladder. We're trying to get up on the roof, apparently. Okay, so we have a 15-foot ladder. So I know that this ladder is 15 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and label that 15 feet right there. Okay? Okay, so let's keep reading. How far from the base of the house do you need to place a 15-foot ladder so that it exactly reaches the top of a 12-foot wall? Okay, so here's the 12-foot wall. It's exactly reaching the top of that. So we know that this side right there is 12 feet. Okay? This part right here, how far, I'm going to underline that. That is our question that we're trying to answer. How far? That means that can be labeled as X. Okay, that is the side of the triangle that we are trying to find. Okay, so now we know that Pythagorean theorem, we always have a right angle. With this little triangle right here, here's our right angle. We need to know our right angle because that's what tells us our A, our B, and our C side. So I'm going to go ahead and label. My C is always across from my right angle. C is always across from the right angle. Okay, we know that's always C. Okay, A and B, it doesn't really matter. So you can go ahead and label 12 as A, X as B. You could have labeled X as A, 12 as B. Does not matter. The only side that matters is that C, okay? So now we can go ahead and label into our Pythagorean theorem. But wait, we haven't even written that down. So let's go up here to the top of my paper. And I'm just going to underline Pythagorean theorem. And under it, we know that our Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Right? Okay, so now all we need to do is plug in what we know for A, B, and C. Okay, so I'm going to come back over to number 1. First is A squared. Okay, my A is 12, so I'm going to put 12 squared. Okay, plus B squared. B we don't know. B is X. Plus X squared. Okay, equals C squared. C we know is 15. 15 squared. Okay, perfect. So now we can start to simplify. Okay, well we know what 12 squared and 15 squared is. If you have a calculator, you can go ahead and use that. Okay, just to show you guys, we know that 12 squared, or 12 times 12, is 144. So I can simplify that to 144. Plus X squared. X we don't know. That has to stay X squared. Equals, okay, 15 squared in my calculator now. 225. Perfect. Okay, we're getting closer and closer to solving for X, solving for this side, figuring out how far away is the bottom of the ladder to the bottom of the house. Okay, so now we just use our properties for solving an equation to solve. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I know that I'm trying to get X by itself, so I need to work from farthest away. So this is a positive 144, so the opposite of that, subtract 144 from both sides of my equal sign, right? That side of my equal sign, that side of my equal sign. Okay, bring down X squared. We haven't done anything with that. And now we have 225 minus 144 is going to be 81. We could have done in our calculator. Okay, perfect. So my X is not all by itself. Please do not think that X is by itself. It has this little squared attached to it. Okay, and what do we know is the opposite of square? Okay, I made you guys shout it out. Opposite of square is square root. Okay, I'll make that little note. Opposite of square is square root. So we get rid of that X squared, that squared attached to that X, by square rooting both sides. Okay, those guys cannot exist together, so this X is all by itself. Okay, and what do we know is the square root of 81? Okay, second, my little square symbol is right above this X squared. 81, we know that it is 9, because 9 times 9 will give me 81. Okay, so we know in this one, X is 9. Okay, but 9 what? What's our actual answer? 12 feet, 15 feet, 9 feet. It is 9 feet away from the bottom of the house. Perfect. And there's our first example. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and start number 2. I want to start it with you guys just so you know what information you're going to want to use to draw your picture. I might even start your picture. Okay, so the bottom, oh, we're talking about a wall and a ladder again. Okay, that's all right. We can draw. So the bottom of a ladder must be placed 6 feet from a wall. Okay, so let's just draw our wall. Here's our wall. And then the bottom of the ladder, so I'm going to go ahead and draw the ladder. Boom, 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 boom. It must be placed 6 feet from this wall. Okay, so that means that this guy right here on the bottom of my ladder to the bottom of the wall is 6 feet. Okay, the ladder is 10 feet long. So we know that this ladder is now 10 feet long. How far above the ground does the ladder touch the wall? Okay, so we're looking right here. How far from the ground? Okay, the ground's right down here. So we know that that's our x side. Okay, awesome. So I want you guys to figure out which side is your A, B, and C. I'll even give you a little hint. There's our right angle. That should tell you which side is C. Okay, once you've figured out what side is A, B, and C, you can go ahead and plug it into Pythagorean's theorem to solve. Okay, use number 1 as your example. Okay, number 2, this one's a little, well actually it's the same. Okay, you're either solving for an A or a B side. There's another hint for you. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about number 3 before you guys can work on this on your own and to submit. Okay, number 3 says to write your own Pythagorean theorem word problem. Okay, this is where you guys get to be creative. Here's a little hint for you. I would first look up Pythagorean triples. Okay, if you guys have access to Google or the internet, I would look up Pythagorean triples. A few Pythagorean triples, right? Numbers that if you plug them in for a triangle, this is a Pythagorean triple because we have all whole numbers, 9, 12, 15. Okay, this one, hint, is going to be a Pythagorean triple. This x is going to be a whole number. There should be no decimals. Okay, so if you look up Pythagorean triples, a few of these guys are 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm not going to give you the next one because it might help you with number 2, but we know that 9, 12, 15 was a Pythagorean triple. Notice these guys are always written A, B, C. A, B, C. These last ones are always your hypotenuse. Notice 15 was my hypotenuse. Okay, they're always labeled A, B, C, or leg, hypotenuse. Okay, so look up a few of those Pythagorean triples, and that will give you information to write your own word problem. If you want to write your own word problem, just like these guys, if you want to use a house and a ladder again, that's totally fine. But you guys can be creative. Okay, your word problem should be creating a triangle. Okay, in your word problem, you should have to create a triangle. Okay, this shouldn't be the work that I see though. I should actually see words to where when I'm grading your paper, I should be able to now plug in your word problem and solve it. Okay, but look up those Pythagorean triples, use those as your like 10 feet, 6 feet, notice 15 foot, 12 foot. Okay, look up the Pythagorean triples and use those in your very own word problem. Okay, you guys get to be creative on this one. You just have to finish number 2 and then write your own word problem and you are good to go. Okay, you guys are awesome. Keep submitting your assignments either on Canvas or working on them on WootMath. Please make sure to show your work on WootMath, whether you type in your work or you use the little pencil icon to do that. I need to see work on both of these guys. Okay, bye guys.